Hello, I'm Matthew McLean. I'm the creative lead at Frieze Studios and the editor of Frieze Week magazine. Welcome to Art Live, where I'm going to try and bring you a taste of Frieze here on opening day. Today we're in London, where we have Frieze London, the contemporary fair opening, as well as Frieze Masters, a fair dedicated to historical art, and a sculpture harp in between. So we've got a lot of ground to cover today. Come with me. So one thing we see at the fairs is galleries will often show works by their artists who can currently have exhibitions at major museums and institutions in London and beyond. And it's a chance to sort of capitalise on the momentum around the artists, but also get to show sort of another side of their practice. So you'll see here at Frieze London today, Frieze Street Gallery, they've given over kind of half of their stand to the works of Cornelia Parker, concurrent with her retrospective at Tate Britain. Société Gallery from Berlin have a big video installation by Lu Yang, who has a show here at the moment at the Zabludowicz collection in London. He's also Deutsche Bank's Artist of the Year 2022. So his show at the Palais Populaire in Berlin opened in September. And here behind me is this incredibly sensitive, meticulous, really beautiful installation by the artist Cecilia Vicuña. There's also a textile piece on the floor and a painting around the corner. And Vicuña has had a really big year. She won a major prize at the Venice Biennale this year, and she also just this week opened a major commission for the Turbine Hall at Tate Modern. So hi Riku, thank you for making time talking to us today. Can you tell me a little about the story of your gallery, Addis Fine Art?
Sure, Addis Fine Art started in 2016 with me and my co-founder Masai Halilul. We decided that a lot of the artwork that we were collecting personally really needed a platform to be seen outside of our own collections. Just to cut a very long story short, and so we decided to open our space in Addis in January of 2016 to really develop, and we had a wish list of artists that we wanted to work with anyway, and to give them a platform and to really try to bring them and compete with all of the contemporaries around the world.
And can you tell me about the artists you're showing in the focus section today, please?
Yes. So we're very excited about Salome Mulata. She is a young artist in her 20s who lives and works in Addis Ababa. Salome actually is partly self-trained, and she went to the newer colleges that are now popping up in Ethiopia. So very free, very interesting, and really somebody that we want to watch.
So this is the stand of Dane Gallery, which is based here in London, also has a space in Naples. And for their stand this year, they've invited one of their gallery artists, Anthea Hamilton, a British artist, to actually curate a show based on different works from the gallery's programs. There's a whole range of the gallery's different artists showcased here. Sculptures by Jean-Luc Mélène, there's an old Linda Bengler sculpture on the wall there, a great Ella Kriyanskaya work on canvas over there, and Anthea herself is kind of choreographed the space, covering the floor in this bold tartan fabric, which even extends up one wall and crosses over to this really striking desk, crossing the boundaries between sort of what's design, what's art, the context of how we experience art, and looking at how that kind of shifts our perception of things. So a little bit of fun art, fashion, luxury crossover. As I said, these behind me, these giant pumpkins by Anthea Hamilton. On the back of Frieze Week is an advert for Loewe, featuring Anthea Hamilton's giant pumpkins. And behind me, Anthea is talking to Loewe's Jonathan Anderson, that side of the stand. I don't mind waiting. Hi, Laure. Congratulations on this presentation at Lisson Gallery. There were so many diverse, disparate elements here. Yeah. Could you tell me something about the sort of concept or story that kind of knots them all together for you?
Yeah, I guess we're in the center, in the wound of the show here. These panels, these paintings come from a video which I did like a few months ago. After the birth of my young daughter, it was really looking at her beginning of life, crossing frontiers between animals and humans.
The octopus, marine life, like I remember your art night project many years ago, I took a shot of octopus ink, and of course sea life in your project at the Venice Biennale. So could you talk about something about what it is about the octopus specifically, or these forms of marine life that sort of intrigues you?
It's funny, it became more and more present to show in the work. I think in our mind, obviously, we can't be octopus, but we can sort of push sensation of well-being,
And is that why it's important for people watching? They don't realise that our hands are both through these kind of interactive slots that are cut through the paintings, and mine is in this long fabric glove. You talk about this desire to have things, you know, this interactive level for
I'm always thinking of context, you know. I think every time I make a piece, it's also about the situation. So here I'm there with flags and banners, like this is a moment of attention or grabbing of different audience coming, different nationality stories. So I think it was really important for me that it's a moment of connection, but also a moment like, okay, let's change the world together, you know, a little bit, even if it's hints or it's possibilities. But that's why there's this big banner, and I invite you to take it with me.
We take a poll each?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, no more frontiers. Yeah. Yes, we'll try to know more. We're gonna go on the street tomorrow night.
Exactly. No more frontiers.
So today it's here. Yeah. It's a start.
Congratulations again. Thank you so much.
Thanks
you so
for
much.
coming, and I'll tickle you as you leave. Thanks for.
So painting everywhere. There is so much painting at Frieze London this year. And even I say this as someone who stands painting, not all of it is completely up my strasse, but these are two paintings that I do say I wholeheartedly love. They're at the stand of Karma, a gallery based in New York, and they're by the American artist Dike Blair. And why I'm really excited to see them at the fair this year is so much of the painting that's really prominent at the moment is splashy, is large, is polemical, is rooted in questions of power and identity. And this is all great, but there's this whole other thing that painting can do, which is quiet, which is thoughtful, which focus on the detail almost to the point of a kind of metaphysical insight. And I think that's something that Dike Blair's paintings have been doing actually for a long time. So it's almost this kind of parallel secret history of painting just tucked away in this corner of the fair. So right now we're in the Deutsche Bank Wealth Management Lounge at Frieze London, which features this amazing multimedia presentation of works by the London-based artist Shezad Dawood. And Shezad is actually here, and he's been chatting with Deutsche Bank's Claudio de Sanctis. Good morning,
Morning. Shezad,
morning, Claudio.
Can you tell us a bit, and I'm obviously a bit biased, but can you tell us a bit about this VR experience here in the back, which seems extraordinary? I can't wait to experience it, actually.
This VR experience, called the Terrarium, takes viewers on a journey 300 years into the future of the Baltic Sea. And we workshopped it with paleoclimatologists, marine biologists, and evolutionary geneticists. So it's a wonderful departure from science into total speculative fiction. But Claudio, you're also very passionate about the oceans, and that's been a great point of connection between us.
I am. I was lucky enough to be born with a huge passion for the ocean, and the time and the resources to actually explore it, live it, and pass that passion now on to my children and share it with my wife, actually.
Fantastic, and thank you for supporting this wonderful immersive ocean creation at the lounges.
No, you have really touched many chords of our heart. Thank you so much, Shezad. You're a fantastic artist, and the lounge is testament to your incredible talent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So in a special project for the entrance hall at Frieze London this year, the artist Emma Talbot has produced this amazing 28 meters long hanging work, acrylic painted on silk. It's called 21st Century Herbal. It's full of plants and herbs and natural life, and it's kind of beckoning me out into the park. So I think we say goodbye to Frieze London and we head to Frieze Masters. So it's about a 15-minute walk between Frieze London and Frieze Masters. But in between them on the way, here in the English Gardens in the Regent's Park, is Frieze Sculpture. This is a free display of outdoor work. It's open to the public and it runs outside of Frieze Week as well. In fact, it will be going till November. So thousands of visitors, regular people in London, can come and see and enjoy the art. This year, for the 10th year, it's been advised by Claire Lilly of Yorkshire Sculpture Park. And as ever, it's full of bold, provocative, really eye-catching sculptures. This piece by Alicia Quaid is no exception. One of the most attention-grabbing works in Frieze sculpture this year is this piece. It's called Hercules meets Galatea by the British artist Matt Derbyshire. And Hercules behind me, which is based on an antique model, he looks like it's been 3D printed, but he's actually cast in bronze. Matt Derbyshire is an artist very interested in materials and in technologies and in how they transform things. So it's very fitting that the figure looking at him is called Galatea, who in ancient mythology was a statue that actually came to life. So material transformation is the name of the game. So I'm fiddling on my phone, so along the broad walk from Frieze London to Frieze Masters, there were these QR codes pasted along. And this is an auxiliary program with the fairs. It's a collaboration between the Swedish publishing house, Stolpe, and Acute Art, which is an AR and VR arts company based here in London. And to celebrate the publication of the catalogue raisonné of the works of the late Swedish artist Hilmar af Klint, they developed these AR versions of af Klint's artworks. So you scan the code and you can see them, place them here in the parks, and actually they're sort of interactive. They move around, reflect her spiritual vision. So we're here at Frieze Masters. This is a fair dedicated to art and objects from before the year 2000. It's celebrating its 10th birthday this year, and it has a very different atmosphere and a different kind of focus to the contemporary fair to London. It's probably less well known to some people, but it's really full of its own special charms, which I'm excited to show you. One thing you get at a fair like this is this amazing kind of intimacy that's not always afforded when you're looking at great works of art, say, in museums or auction houses. So here I am standing face to face, inches away from a piece by one of my all-time favorite artists, in my opinion, probably one of the greatest painters of all time, Francisco de Goya. This is a piece attributed to Goya from the middle of the 1820s. Goya is an artist who at this point has lived in Spain through the French invasion and the first ever guerrilla war. He's witnessed terrible atrocities committed by soldiers against civilians, civilians against civilians, civilians against soldiers. He's sort of lost a lot of his faith in the political system. Political reform in Spain is on a pretty downward trajectory at this point, and he's just on the verge of going sort of into self-imposed exile in France to escape the Spanish political climate. And it's really interesting the way Goya has painted him on this very stark black background, and the sword itself, elements of the handle and the blade, are also rendered in this black. There's one streak of kind of grey suggesting a gleam, very elegantly done at the bottom of the blade. But it's almost like the thing that St. Paul is resting on is itself kind of empty or falling apart. This isn't necessarily your usual world, the world of an art fair, so can you tell me a little bit about your career to date and how this came about?
Absolutely. So I worked 10 years for the city of Paris in different museums, and then 10 years in Centre Pompidou. And then I left Centre Pompidou to create a non-profit called AWARE, as of Archives of Women Artists Research and Exhibition. I realized I was really missing information about women artists in general. So I needed a website that I could tap on and look at artists and find their bios, where they worked, what the content of the work was, etc. So I created AWARE in the spirit of creating a tool for curators, art historians, but also school teachers or anybody who doesn't know anything about history of art.
Tell us some of the stories that particularly represent what you were sort of trying to do.
Well, maybe to start with, the booth we're standing in is about Léonore Fugny, an artist who was shown prominently in the last Venice Biennale. She's Italian and she could be affiliated to Surrealism but refused to, and that's interesting because she was pretty famous in her time, recognized by Bataille, by Jean Genet, and she could have been part of the movement, but she wanted to stay out of it, to stress her individual way of doing art, which is, as you can see, pretty erotic and pretty pro-queer. For me, it's an historical reflection which was led mostly by women artists as early as the 1920s, so a century ago.
So this is a stand of Sam Fogg, a London-based gallery which is dedicated to art of the Middle Ages. And I think for some people, when they hear the phrase medieval art, they think of something that's quite austere, monochromatic, maybe even dreary. What I love about Sam Fogg's presentations is they really show the variety and the vibrancy of the work from this period, and that you see that in the range, everything here from these English alabasters, this amazing material which has this kind of softness and luminosity. It's completely exquisite. You can see also from these architectural fragments, 2 twisted columns from Rome, beautifully detailed and inset with this sort of cosmati work mosaic, just have this incredible energy. All the way through to this, one of the most stunning pieces I think in Frieze Masters this year. From around 1500, Germans carving, probably a portrait of a noble woman. It's carved from wood, imagine probably something like lime wood, something that's sort of relatively soft and allows this particular delicacy. And it's painted, which of course so much statuary from the Middle Ages, which we forget, often was. And the freshness of these colours, the softness, the vividness, it's as striking as anything you'd see at Frieze London. So we're here at the stand of David Aaron, a London-based dealer. And one of the most extraordinary experiences you can have at Frieze Masters, if you're very lucky, and it's very likely that some exhibitors will actually allow you to touch and handle some of their objects, like this Egyptian baboon, more than 3,000 years old, carved out of material called stilotite, beautifully patterned and detailed and anatomically correct, as you can see. It's just wonderful to be able to actually touch the substances of the past, and clearly this probably was an object that was, if not handled, had a very physical presence in its time. Can you tell me a little bit about how you began your interest in art and beginning to acquire it for yourself?
Yeah, so, my interest in art started in around 2015, where I was moving into my first apartment. So as I was getting into my first shot of interior decorating, I was thinking about how I could decorate my flat. And I really liked the idea of decorating it with some African art. Then eventually I went to Nigeria, and I was taken aback by the vibrancy, by the color, by the dynamism of the art, and what it did was that art really did. Well, it felt like it connected to my soul. It spoke to my soul. So yeah, that was how the journey started.
Do you often find, in your world, people are a little bit like, oh, you buy art? And how do you respond to that kind of curiosity or questioning?
Yeah, I guess it's not too normal. You don't necessarily put rugby players and, art enthusiasts together, but, it's something that is well received. And, after you start talking to a few people, you realize that a few people are actually secret admirers of art as well. Maybe they're perhaps not as vocal as me. It's something that is obviously different, but I think it's great. No one is defined by one thing, whether it's sport, whether it's art, whether it's business, etc. Humans are multifaceted beings, so I think it's important for us to express ourselves by different means.
This amazing chair is by the artist Roberto Matta, Chilean artist who ended up in Italy. And it's part of this presentation that the young dealer Tommaso Calabro has done, celebrating the life of the legendary dealer Alexandre Iolas. I've been eyeing this chair for a while now because I've been in desperate need of a nice sit down. We've traversed a lot of ground today. I hope you've had fun with us on this tour today. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time for Art Life.